The uncle of the French sovereign, the Duke of Berry, contemplated entering into a second marriage. Jean the Magnificent, as he was known for his charm and encyclopedic knowledge, was already in his 60s. He was a diplomat and warrior, a patron of the arts and a collector. From his first marriage, he had 5 children, but the Duke felt he was still young and strong enough to take a beautiful wife. Initially, he sent matchmakers to England to approach the Duke of Lancaster. However, the Duke was not pleased with the prospect of marrying into the Berry family and responded with a sharp refusal. Unfazed, Jean the Magnificent turned his attention to the household of Count Gaston de Foix, where the orphan Jean de Boulogne was being raised. The girl was sweet, modest, and of noble birth through her mother. She was related to the family of the emperors of Constantinople, the famous de Courtenay's. Jean de Boulogne turned out to be a charming young woman. However, there was a significant issue. She was 38 years younger than her prospective groom. Upon learning that his uncle was courting this girl, King Charles VI of France exclaimed in surprise, "She is 12, and you are 50. Why are you marrying her?" To which Jean the Magnificent calmly replied, "The girl is beautiful and young. I will marry her, but I will wait 3 or 4 years until she is of age." However, Count de Foix was reluctant to part with his ward, not because he was concerned for her interests, but because the upkeep of this noble young lady, her education, protection, gifts, and provision for her needs had cost him a considerable sum over the years. He had no intention of letting her go cheaply. Seeing the Duke of Berry's interest, the Count set a price in gold coins that the suitor would have to pay for his consent. Naturally, the Duke agreed to everything and all at once. Yet Count de Foix was still in no hurry. "Promises mean little," he said. "I need gold." So, Jean the Magnificent went to the king and also wrote to Rome. Now, the Count was under pressure from both sides. The pontiff assured him he was in favor of the union and urged immediate action, while the French sovereign begged Jean de Boulogne's relative to assist his uncle's happiness. Persuasion proved ineffective. Jean the Magnificent could only secure Count de Foix's consent after he fully paid the required ransom for the bride. This was quite financially draining, but there was no other option. Thus, the wedding took place soon after, with grand celebrations in Rome. The young couple was wed by Pope Urban VI himself. The marriage of young Jean and the Duke of Berry lasted 27 years, but the couple had no children together. After all, the Magnificent was too old for his wife. The newly minted aunt was warmly welcomed at court, and soon she became the talk of all France. Thanks to Jean de Berry's bravery, the sovereign was saved. At a ball where she was present, a fire broke out, and only because the Duchess remained composed and extinguished the flames with her skirts did King Charles VI escape unharmed. After losing her husband at the dawn of the 15th century, the Duchess remarried. She wed for love with the governor of the province of Dauphiné, Georges de la Tremouille. Unfortunately, Jean misjudged this man. He was greedy and completely indifferent to her. After the wedding, La Tremouille began to openly neglect his wife and even raised his hand against her. Heartbroken, the former Duchess sought the king's permission to leave her husband and retire to one of her estates in Auvergne. La Tremouille impoverished his wife, and she was even said, according to some historians, to have resorted to minting counterfeit money. For this, by royal decree, Jean was stripped of part of her lands, and after a few years, she passed away. The former Duchess of Berry wished to be laid to rest beside her first husband, Jean the Magnificent, who was nearly 40 years her senior.